Hi, I am Mark Chen. This is Melissa Peterson. Welcome to our lovely chat here. We have been playing this game called Gloomhaven for a little bit more than a year now during the pandemic, and we decided to talk about it and submit this video to the Well Play Journal of special COVID-19 issue. Um, and so that's what this is. I'm basically a professor at University of Washington Bothell, which is the sister campus to the one in Seattle, and um, I've been studying games for like I don't know 15 years or something like that, um, and we've been playing this game as a way to cope with life, I guess. And Melissa, would you like to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As Mark said, I'm Melissa Peterson. I am a PhD student in the Learning Design and Technology Department at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And I also have been studying games and designing and developing games as well for the past about a decade, something like that. Especially using these games in like museums and zoos and things like that. So exciting science games. And yeah, we started playing. Actually, I think we started playing right around when things started happening. So we had actually planned to do this before COVID was really in the news. It was like starting to be in the news, but not really yet.
Mhm.
And we had both been talking about the fact that we didn't have people to play Gloomhaven with.
Right.
And since I'm in the middle of the ocean, I can't, just drive down to Mark's house and play Gloomhaven with him. So
Right.
we
Well,
decided
and
to try this.
we've never lived in the same city anyway, so
No, we haven't.
I don't know what would have been worse. I mean, was it easier that you were in Hawaii, or would it have been easier when you were in Pennsylvania?
I mean, it's a 3 hour time difference either way, because when I was in Pennsylvania, I was just 3 hours ahead of you. Um, so now I'm just 3 hours behind. Sometimes
Yeah.
only 2 hours though. So that's the difference, is that sometimes it's only a 2 hour difference. Um, but yeah, I didn't really have people to play with in Pennsylvania either. So
Hmm.
we just decided we both were interested in playing, so we decided to do it.
Yeah. So this game Gloomhaven um got really really big in 2019. Uh like there was a Kickstarter and everything that was pretty successful, or I guess I should say like wildly successful. And then it became like the number one game on Board Game Geek for a while, and a whole bunch of people were talking about it and playing it and everything. And so both of us, I guess, sort of jumped on the hype train, but didn't have anyone to play with locally.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we decided to get together and play it and everything. Since then, so last year they started. There's a digital version now, um, which is currently in, I guess, alpha or beta or something like that. And uh, eventually we might be able to play the digital version. But anyways, the game. Um, I don't know. Should we talk about how the game works?
A little. I don't know that we need to go into great detail, because I feel like most people probably know what Gloomhaven is. Even people who aren't really into tabletop RPGs, probably tabletop role-playing games. Um, so it's a tabletop role-playing game, and it is, I would say, probably the closest to playing a computer role-playing game on a tabletop that I've seen. I know that there's tons of games out there that I have not played, so I'm, grain of
Hmm.
salt there. But the way that it works, it's like a dungeon crawler, where you and your group are exploring these dungeons as part of like being in this larger narrative about what's going on in Gloomhaven. And one of the parts that's really interesting for me is the way the monsters work. So the monsters have like legitimate artificial intelligence kinds of things going on with them, so that they act. So you don't need a DM. The DM doesn't handle it. The game actually handles it for you. It's actually a really interestingly designed thing. I know it's not the first to do things like that, but it certainly does it quite well, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So as Melissa said, it's a dungeon crawler. There've been a bunch of dungeon crawlers before it, like Hero Quest, you know, um, Descent, and other games like that. Um, and the one that this one strikes me resembling, I guess, is there's a series of Dungeons and Dragons dungeon crawler games in these big square boxes. Um, like Castle Ravenloft, I think was the first one, and then there was like Wrath of Ashardalon and so on. Um, and they also have monster AI, or there's basically rules for what monster behavior would be. Um, to me, what makes Gloomhaven stand out from previous games is how your actions are sort of dictated by a hand of cards that you have, and so you have to choose um, two cards to play each turn, and the cards that you choose determine your initiative, or how fast, or when you get to go during a turn. Like you compare initiative values, and whoever has the lowest goes first. Um, and then the cards also sort of determine, or they constrain like what you can do, because unlike a lot of the other games, um, you can't just do anything each turn.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's not as creative as playing traditional Dungeons and Dragons for sure.
that's true. Yeah. But it is. I think it's or it's not. It's not as freeform as traditional D&D, but
Freeform.
I think it is as
That's a better
creative,
word.
because like the constraints make you come up with creative solutions. You know. Um,
That's true. But you can't just turn into an Allosaurus and like walk out carrying a carpet. You can't do things like that.
that's yes, that's absolutely true. Um, that's like a deep cut no one's gonna get.
That's okay though, because people who play D&D, I'm sure all have stories that are similar to that. You know, they
Yeah.
must. Otherwise, why are they playing D&D?
Right. But anyways, each player controls a character, and you can level up and everything as you're going into these dungeons and all that, get experience points and all that, and eventually the characters retire. Um, and then you can basically choose new characters to play. And that's another thing that's sort of interesting about this game, is it's one of these what's called a legacy game, which means that um, it remembers, like you affect the map by going into these different missions and everything, and unlocking different areas, and um, you sort of affect the rank or prosperity, I guess, of the city that you're in, Gloomhaven. um, and so it's just like this persistent world. So part of it isn't just like leveling up these characters, which is really fun and a staple of role playing games, but also you're sort of like leveling up the actual world that you're in too, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and you definitely can change the city for the better or the worse, depending on the decisions that you make, which is
Yeah.
cool.
All right. So hopefully that's a good introduction to Gloomhaven. We'll put links, I guess, to where you can find way more info in the description of this video and everything. We've prepared a series of questions to ask each other, um, related specifically, I guess, to playing the game during the pandemic and that whole experience and everything. And I keep laughing about that because it's just like, um, it feels like an eternity. And so, like,
It really
trying to
does.
encapsulate everything. Um, so, what's the first question here?
The first question is, how did this experiment begin? Which we sort of talked about already, that we had talked to each other about it. I actually bought the game so that we could play Gloomhaven together, because I didn't feel like it was worth the money if I didn't have somebody to play with, because as you may or may not know, it's a hugely expensive game because it's a giant box full of tons of stuff. Like it's totally worth what you pay for it, but it is hugely expensive. So I actually bought it so that we could play together. And I live in a house that has very few people who will play games with me, so as in zero, or are too young to play these kinds of games. So it seemed like a good idea at the time to deal with the fact that we didn't have anyone to play with by playing over Zoom.
Yeah. I actually kickstarted the game. So I must have heard about the game like in 2017 or 2018 or something like that. Then I received the game, um, like a month before retail stores did, and then didn't play the game for a year. Because like I guess this must have been 2019 or so, 2018, 2019. And like um there was just too much stuff going on in my life, so I didn't play the game, and I didn't have a group to play with anyways. Or I guess I did technically, but at the time we were playing Pandemic Legacy instead. Um and so we were finishing up that
Bad
campaign.
timing.
I know.
Really bad timing.
It I don't think playing Pandemic Legacy prepared me for the real pandemic.
Yeah, no, there was nothing, there's no toilet paper hoarding in Pandemic Legacy.
Right. Um yeah, so I had it sitting on my bookshelf for a long time. And I guess I don't know if I told you about it or if you heard about it, but then somehow we found out that I own it and you didn't, and then I was like, oh, or you could get it and then we could play it together. That would be cool. So here's the second question. How did the use of technology evolve in terms of how did we actually play it together? Um,
Mhm.
but each of us having a copy of it allowed us to do sort of a syncing of our own version of it in front of ourselves on our own tables pretty easily. Like I feel like if each of us didn't have our own copy, it would have been really hard to play over Zoom.
Yeah.
So we've been playing over Zoom.
Yeah, it was at the time I thought maybe we would just use yours and that I would just kind of like peer in from Zoom. But after getting it and and I figured I could use mine as like a reference, and also I like stuff, who doesn't like stuff? So I remember though the first scenario we set up, and there was no way we could have done it if because Mark would have had to like hold up my cards for me, and then I would have had to have been like, no, your other right, like that kind of a thing over Zoom. No, I want to move that way, It works out really nicely because we can pull up, yeah, we sync the two versions. So I keep my video so that you can see me and also what I'm doing, and that helps both of us, I think. And then Mark has several cameras going at all times so that we can.
Yeah, yeah. Initially when we had this idea, we could just have our Zoom cameras pointing at like the table and ourselves, and we're just both playing together, right? But then I was like, well, I do have multiple cameras and everything, and so and I have multiple devices, right? So then I could set it up so that
Mhm.
one camera would be on me, one camera would be on the table, um, and then and I think we did that a couple of times or so, and then it turns out that there's a whole bunch of apps for this game or to support
Mhm.
playing the game, I guess. And so I looked into that and decided that it would be good to use an app while playing the game too, and basically have um, a third device connected to Zoom that's just showing what's on the app screen or basically on my phone. And so to do that, I had to get like phone mirroring software, um, and run Open Broadcaster Studio to basically capture the screen share of the phone on the laptop, and then have that be piped into Zoom. I think initially the actual instigation of that is that we were dealing with like when it was just me and the tabletop, that was 3 videos, which made a really awkward Zoom video because you had like it doesn't fit into a rectangle very well with 3 source videos, and so I was like, we need a fourth video, and so that's why, um, or that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do like this screen share video. Um,
Yeah, it was that. And then the other thing was so that you didn't have to like stop and do the monster thing and hold up the card. It was like this whole process to get through a turn. And so once we found that app that will pull the cards for you, the like monster initiative cards and things like that, and the modifier deck, it was way easier to just let that do that. And that way we didn't have to read things to the to the screen.
right, right. And also when we had to do, so when you play the game, um, between missions, you hang out in the city of Gloomhaven, and before you go off to your next mission, you're supposed to do what's called a city event. So there's like this deck that has a bunch of cards in it that each of them is a different event that happens, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of
Mm-hmm.
deck, I guess. Um, and so it was also easier just to use an app for that. Except then it turned out it used to be easier. Now I guess it's still easier, but not as easy. So what happened was
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, the app got updated so that the text of the cards is no longer in the app. Unfortunately, maybe they hit copyright issues or something like that. Um, and so now the all it does is just show you what card number it is, and you still have to refer to your physical deck in order to read the text and everything. But initially, it was pretty cool to be able to have the copy of the cards show up on the screen too, so we didn't have to. Or I guess we still read it out loud, but so that we didn't, or I guess so that the viewer could read it while we were reading it out loud, you know. But now they just have
Yeah.
to listen to us. Um,
Sad, but understandable. I think it must have been a copyright issue.
yeah, um,
But it still keeps track of which cards are in the deck, right? Like the
yeah,
ones
yeah,
that have
yeah.
been taken out. Yeah.
hmm
Because
So
some of the cards get taken away and other cards go back in the deck. So there's a lot to keep track of, actually.
right. And actually, as a legacy game, like when the cards get taken away, you're supposed to, like, literally, you're supposed to tear it up and throw it away. So that,
We don't do that.
yeah, we don't do that. um, yeah, my copy, like, I haven't done anything permanent to my copy, I feel like. So, like, it'd be pretty easy to completely reset and start all over with my copy of the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm using the reuse. Well, I'm actually using an app now. I was using the reusable stickers and I was using an erasable pen to mark things and stuff like that. And then I found an app that's a campaign tracker app. So it's the Gloomhaven campaign tracker, actually, is what it's called. And it'll do the map for you. It'll show like donations to the temple. It'll show everything that you could possibly want it to show. It does actually have a thing that will run the scenarios for you, but the other app we were using that was, I think, free initially worked much better than that one. So I actually used two apps as well as the game board and Zoom to play the game, which it gets a little crazy, but it actually, the systems of it work out. It ends up being less crazy than if I was trying to do it all with cards.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it saves table space too. I don't think my table's big enough for everything. Um, so yeah, so that's a tech. Um, I'm pretty happy with how it's going now. I mean, we basically have fallen into a routine, or at least I've fallen into a routine of setting it up. You know, so like I join with basically three devices to the same Zoom room, um, um, you know, and have it all set up and ready to go. Usually by, well, not usually by the time we actually are meeting, because a lot of our videos start when we're still setting up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of life.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so but it's been pretty smooth in terms of the tech. There was one time, that one time, I don't remember which month it was, when the apps failed, or the screen share, I think, failed, and so we had to revert to using the cards.
Yeah.
Um,
And we've had sound issues off and on because of all of the tech required. So if the wrong microphone is on, all of a sudden you get like these crazy alien noises,
whoa,
which
whoa,
aliens
whoa,
are
whoa, whoa, whoa,
not,
whoa.
yeah, aliens are not in the game, so it doesn't help. We tried to do an ambient like soundtrack one time too, and that didn't work super well because in order for it to be picked up by the microphone. It had to be so loud that I couldn't focus. So that didn't go very well either. But we tried things we tried.
Yeah. There's a lot of post processing we could have been doing that I didn't do. I just record to the computer and then basically just take that raw video and throw it to YouTube. But we could have done stuff like, actual edits and add a soundtrack and, throw in
Yeah.
an intro title and stuff like that. And I just didn't think that was worth it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of video of the two of us making decisions, like just silently staring at our cards, trying to figure out what we're gonna do next.
yeah, yeah.
So
Those parts might, they could have used some video editing to speed up those parts or do a fade. Time has passed, type of fade.
yeah.
um, Actually, that kind of segues to our fourth question, not our third question, but our fourth question. Like, why are we actually doing this? Who's our audience? Um,
So our audience, it started out at 0, but then we picked up a couple of people who all happened to be named Matt, and that was the really sort of a funny thing to us. But it was only 2 or 3 of them. I'm actually not sure if we ever got the third Matt or if we just referred to him. But it was strange because our entire audience was named Matt, and they were actually fairly interactive at the time. They were giving us advice. One of the Matts helped with character building because he was a very experienced Gloomhaven player. So he helped us with some of our early missteps with our characters. But, for me, it's less, the Matts were great. I'm not sure they're watching anymore. I'm pretty sure they got bored and wandered off because, it was fairly sporadic. But I feel like it's a really nice sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. It's like an interesting historical artifact, I guess. Like, here are these 2 people 3 hours apart by time zone, way more than 3 hours apart by playing this game in the middle of a pandemic. So even if nobody's going to watch it, I think it's an interesting thing for the future archaeologists to find and be like, what were these crazy people doing?
right? Yeah. Each video has like probably about or fewer than a dozen views. And 2 of those are probably me because I'm like reviewing the video and making sure it was okay and everything. Although maybe YouTube doesn't count those. One of the Matts, so the Matt who was helping us is actually a high school friend of mine. Like we've known each other since high school,
Cool.
which was kind of interesting because over the years we had not been keeping in touch at all. And I wouldn't say we were like the best of friends in high school either, but we knew each other at least in high school and were friends enough that we were Facebook friends. And so that's how he found out about it, because every time I upload a video, I would post it also to Facebook and my Twitter account. And so he saw that, and he's I believe he's a teacher in New York. So that's pretty cool, because both Melissa and I are in education as well. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the 2 Matts. I'm guessing life.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows, right? We've had this pandemic for more than a year. Who knows what may have happened? I hope nothing bad has happened to them. But yeah, it was pretty cool having their help initially. Also, especially at the beginning, it was very useful because we got advice on how to do character builds and how to pick characters and everything, and sort of found out about early resources. There's a pretty healthy community online that talks about Gloomhaven and strategies for playing Gloomhaven and everything. And I don't think I would have, or I guess I may have discovered those eventually, but I don't think I would have like zeroed in on the most useful ones really without their help. So that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool because it is quite a dense game to pick up just from scratch. That was actually one of our initial ideas, is that we were just going to be complete like neophytes, I guess, and just try from square one on video to document the learning process. And and we ended up needing help because it's really, and I say this in the last video we just shot. I'm still looking stuff up. It's now been a year. We've been playing for a year. We pretty much know, you know, like there's not a lot of looking up anymore, but every once in a while we're like, wait, what is that rule again? We have to go back and look it up
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
the giant rule book.
Yeah. And that's why I'm sort of looking forward to the digital version, because then it'll keep track of all that stuff for us, enforce the rules for us, you know. Um,
Yes. Although this does bring us to our fifth question, which is about our priorities during the game experience, because uh, we've been known to cheat a little bit to preserve the fun. So it is a hard game, and we were very faily at it for a while. We didn't pick the best characters necessarily. We just picked based on how we would normally play in other RPGs, and not it doesn't always work that well to do that. So we picked like super squishy characters that were not very good at what they did right away. It took us a little while to get going.
mhm.
So we definitely have we're not playing like super epic hard level or anything like that. We play easy pretty much all the time. And every once in a while we accidentally cheat. Every once in a
Or well, okay, so first, I fully believe we should be allowed to play whatever character we want to play, right? And um, that said, it is definitely true that some combinations of characters allow for um, more robust, I guess, strategies than other combinations. And we did choose a particularly weak combination of characters initially. Um, but we were having fun, and that's probably what matters the most. And just learning, learning how to play and all that stuff, and all that stuff was fun. Um, or fun is learning, right? So, um, you know, I maintain that we may not have been sort of min-maxing the game, but we were definitely, I think, playing the game how it was meant to be played, which is basically just to have fun with the game. And so, like with each group of players, how it's meant to be played is going to be different, because each group of players is going to have a sort of a different criteria for how they want to play and everything, right? Um,
yeah.
and then in terms of the cheating, like it sort of became more as we played
Yeah.
throughout the year. Like initially, I feel like we didn't. The only times we cheated were when we forgot a rule or something like that. Um,
Yeah. Or like
but
made a
then,
mistake
yeah,
picking up our cards,
hmm
things like that.
but then like, but then there were definitely a couple of cases where um, we realized that we made a mistake, and we sort of like um, rewound time a little bit and did that move over again, um, and then the game lets you sort of set the difficulty level. Um, and so like, and it actually says like, if you do this mission and you fail, or if you fail repeatedly, you can just sort of set the difficulty lower level to be lower if you want. And likewise, actually, you can set the difficulty level to be higher. We've never done that though, but uh, and so eventually at one point we're like, okay, this is actually too hard, and we need to set it to be lower. And then I think we ended up just basically keeping it at that lower level for the rest of the campaign that we had been playing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, we reached a point where we had lost a lot, and it was frustrating, and it makes you not want to come back to the game when you lose a lot. And not that it's necessarily fun to win all the time either, but I think we reached a really nice level of like it wasn't simple to win, but it was satisfying to win because it didn't feel like it was too easy. We've reached a point now where it's sort of too easy, except for that we have hit what is, as far as the forums are concerned, like the hardest scenario, and we cannot seem to get past this scenario. So we're debating on how to cheat to get past this one.
yeah, it's an escort quest. Um, and the
Like, need we say more escort quest?
Yeah. Oh, well, so at the very beginning of this recording, we were talking about how the game works and how the monsters have an AI to them. Well, this guy we're escorting also has an AI to him, and it's dumb. It's like super suicidal.
It
It's-
is it is a really bad AI. It's like it to refer to like WoW, which, World of Warcraft, there are escort quests, or at least there used to be. The escorted escortees, who the person you were escorting would sometimes like stop, and you could like, fight off all the bad guys that just swarmed around you.
Hmm.
This guy doesn't do that. He just keeps going. He's like, there's a guy with the sword, I'm gonna run at him. But he doesn't hit the guy with the sword. He just like runs, just keeps running. Like he's like a stupid robot. He just straight
Right.
forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, robot. Exactly. I mean, we're just using these algorithms, these preset rules for how to control the characters that aren't us, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
what we would do with a robot too. Just give them a program to follow. Um,
Yeah, but it's sad because his AI is not as smart as the monster AI.
that's
And
true.
so
Yeah.
the monsters have like specific goals that they go for, and they're not always smart about how they get to them, but for the most part they're pretty smart. He's not smart. And he has a sword, he doesn't swing it. It's like a robot bunny.
Except bunnies tend to run away from danger.
That is true. This is like a robot bunny that got its wires crossed, and it like just runs at danger.
A robot
Walks through
daredevil.
doors. Yeah. It walks through doors, it steps on traps, but it doesn't do anything else. That's all it is.
Right.
Just straightforward.
A lemming, a robot lemming.
Yes, that's what it is.
And now I'm thinking about
It's
that, the old
exactly
computer game Lemmings.
I was about to say that. It's exactly, if you haven't played Lemmings, you had to actually like physically make one stop everybody else. He's like, if the Lemmings could pick up that guy that stops them and get it out of the way and then jump in the lava. That's basically what this AI is. It's very sad. Even my summoned thing. So I'm a summoner right now, and I can summon all these things. And there's like, I have a what do I have? I've got a slime, and the slime is smarter than this guy we're escorting. It doesn't have a brain, but
If it does have a
I'm a
brain,
little
it would be
salty.
see-through. Like you could see through his body to his brain.
That's
Well,
true.
maybe the slime just doesn't have a brain. Um,
Mm.
so now that we've been doing this for a year, um, how has it been? Like, what's the relationship that you have with the game? Um, is it, has it take a particular kind of meaning because we've been playing during the pandemic or anything like that, or what?
Um, I mean, I think I haven't thought about it too hard. Like that we started this and the pandemic happened at the same time. Like it was sort of a coincidence, like we talked about before. But I would say that it's definitely, um, I'm glad that we had already decided to do it because I felt like it just sort of naturally flowed, and um, it's definitely something I look forward to. When we've had to cancel, I'm sad because I get to play a game with my friend, and we may not always be successful, but at least like I'm spending some time doing something I enjoy, which I know that a lot of people are struggling with that during the pandemic, trying to figure out ways to do the things that they enjoy. I'm an introvert, so that hasn't been a humongous problem for me because I can always just read a book, right? But it definitely, having that human connection with somebody else that's not in my house is pretty. I think it's pretty nice to have.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of like if we weren't doing this, what do I normally do? I guess I'm normally playing like a video game of some sort, or reading, or like just watching stuff, right? And the video game stuff can be social if I'm playing an online game, but um, in pre-COVID times, I used to go to a weekly board game meetup, a neighborhood meetup, and so I haven't been able to do that for more than a year. Um, so this has been pretty valuable for me, because I used to play a lot of board games. I have a lot of board games, but like none of them have seen the table for over a year now, right? It's just this one game, really. Well, and Pandemic. I played Pandemic with Moses and David, for another well played issue. Um, yeah. Other than that, it's just been this game. Um, yeah, and I've
Yeah.
found it pretty valuable. There are we've gone like several weeks between games sometimes. Um, because like
Usually,
it's academic
yeah,
schedule,
usually
like.
semester changeover. First 2 weeks of the semester is no go, no
Hmm.
fly.
Right, right.
Yeah. What's been interesting for me too is because I have a daughter and she is in school about half time now, but she's come to a lot of the Gloomhaven plays and she's in quite a few of the videos. And she now is like totally into these sorts of games. She's only 8, so that makes it really hard. So we've been playing Jaws of the Lion because that's a little bit easier. That's like a really good intro to these sorts of games. And I would say that it's great because I know that I'm going to have somebody to play these games with down the line once she gets into strategy a little bit more. But at the same time, it's such a different experience to be teaching somebody who's brand new to gaming how to play these sorts of games versus playing with somebody else who's been playing for a long time. I find Jaws of the Lion way less relaxing, but that's totally because of how I'm playing.
Interesting. That's really funny. So I played Jaws of the Lion solo. I bought it and just played it on my own. Um, that was cool. And I noticed one thing that I noticed about that is I was able to sort of like go through it pretty quickly. I guess because I didn't have to coordinate with another person. Um, and so,
Yeah.
you know, I have sort of finished the campaign for Jaws of the Lion already. Um, and am eagerly awaiting you all to catch up so that we can break out those characters and everything.
Yeah, it's a slow going. I would say that playing Jaws of the Lion with an 8-year-old is hard mode. It's not that the game is all that hard, but trying to like teach her strategy and how to play the game, and then also make sure we don't lose. It's a pretty intense. It's a pretty intense way to play.
Yeah, yeah. This actually reminds me of, one of the, to go back to a previous topic, like one of the reasons why we were cheating, I feel like, is because we wanted to progress. Like we wanted to make sure we were making steady progress through the campaign, because it's like really, really long.
Yeah.
Like maybe too long, you know?
Yeah, so we've had to stop and do side quests to level up too, so that makes it even longer. And I don't have a feel for how far into it we are. I can't tell if we're like halfway through or like almost done or like I have no idea. I feel like there's way more scenario book to go, but I don't know if that's just because of the choices we made or what. I try really hard not to cheat in that way, so I don't like do a lot of like planning ahead for that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but it definitely, I have no idea. We might be almost done, but I feel like there's no possible way that we're almost done because we've only unlocked like 2 extra characters and that's it. And
Yeah,
there's
and the game,
way
there's like
more,
12, there's like
right?
a dozen characters or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that is true. There are a lot more characters, but I feel like the story itself must be coming towards an end or something because like we've done so much. I mean, you want like the really really brief recap for people who have no idea what we're talking about, but basically like Gloomhaven is set in this fantasy world and there's like this something weird going on called the Gloom. Um, and we're just these adventurers and everything, and we find out that there's these cultists who are sort of like encouraging, I guess, the gloom to spread or whatever. And they summon undead and stuff like that. And we sort of track them down, and we get hired by somebody to do all this. It turns out that she um, was sort of like a mastermind behind some of it and everything. And so she's actually turns on us, or we turn on her, I guess, technically,
Hmm.
but she's a bad guy,
Yeah.
um, we deal with her, and then that leads to a bunch of other stuff, and then there's like these portals to like another dimension or like a dark plane type of dimension thing that we have to like we have to find and then close and deal with and all that stuff, and we did that, and that was done through the help of like recruiting like this enchantress to help us, Hale, named Hale, who's like a pain in the
Go
ass.
ahead, Hale.
And so we've been doing a lot, and I feel like if this was like a TV show or a movie, if it was a movie, we would be on like the third movie by now or something like that, you know? Um,
Easily, yeah.
yeah, if this was a TV show, we would probably be in like the second or third season by now, I feel like, you know? And so
Yeah.
I feel like we've done quite a lot, and I can't imagine it getting like having more, but you're absolutely right. We barely touched the characters that are in the game.
Yeah. And I don't think that the unlocks are they take a while to unlock the next character because you have to most of them are from retirement. So we
Yeah,
unlocked two and immediately started playing as those two, and now I don't know. Like I don't know what's gonna happen next.
my current retirement requirement is like it's inevitable, so it's unavoidable, but it's going to take forever.
Mine is similar because mine requires yeah, a lot of looting, let's say. It's gonna require a lot of looting. And I'm actually not sure that my retirement requirement is unlocking anything new, to be perfectly honest. So that's gonna make life even harder because well, not harder, but we just won't get anything cool out of it. Stupid retirement.
Yeah. Well, you can move on to a new character at least.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see what unlocks, if anything else unlocks. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just hurry through Jaws of the Lion and use one of those characters instead.
Hmm.
Because those are pretty interesting characters.
Yeah. I like the
Yeah.
Crusher guy. I don't remember what he's called. Is he called a Crusher?
I don't think so. The what? The Quattrio?
He can go and like destroy rubble and stuff, destroy objects and stuff.
That's the one I play as. He's like a demolitionist or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's the one I play as. You know me. I like to, play the weird characters. I'm never like, I want to be a barbarian. I'm always like, I want to multi-class as all of them.
Actually, one thing we might consider is to each of us control two characters, just so that we unlock them faster. I mean, just so that we get to see them faster. You know what I mean?
That's
Because
true.
if we were playing this, so this game goes up to four players, and so if we were actually had been playing this whole year with four people, we would be,
We would have a
we
lot
would
more
have seen eight
unlocked. Yeah.
characters by now. So maybe that's why we haven't seen enough characters. You know,
Yeah,
just because we're playing
that's
with two
true.
people.
That will up the number of bad guys though by like a lot.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's going to make it a lot longer of a campaign too, because or at least like each scenario will take longer because we're having to control two. I don't know. I have no basis for this opinion except for just that there will be way more bad guys.
What if we
But
tried each of
at the
us
same time,
controlling two characters for this one scenario that we're currently on, the stupid escort quest?
that's not a bad idea. Although I have to make sure that I pick a character that I actually have the standee for since the dog ate them. So another anecdotal thing, which you may or may not want to keep in the recording, is that my dog ate our two characters. So I'm having to use the wrong characters, the wrong standees for our characters because the dog climbed up onto a table and then fished them out and ate them.
Wow.
He really wanted to eat them.
I
It
hope they
was
were
really
tasty.
bad. I
Guess
doubt
dogs
they
eat
were.
anything.
They kind of do. This one does. This one eats anything. But yeah, it's been an interesting year.
Yeah. Okay,
My dog
so
ate my character.
what's the last question we should be asking ourselves? We've gone through our list of questions, but I feel like we need a concluding question. Like, how do you envision this ending, or what do you plan next, or something like that?
Well, I don't know. I have Forbidden Circle, so we could just roll right into Forbidden Circle at the end of this if you got it too, and then
Hmm.
it wouldn't have to end. But I also kickstarted Frosthaven, so we could also just roll into Frosthaven.
I would have to buy a copy. Um,
Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure. Well, it will depend on where I am in my whole doctoral program process and how things are going. I don't want to give it up though. So I guess that's my end result is that I would like to just keep playing. If it wasn't clear, even though we've been sporadic about it, like I said, I look forward to it. It's nice to have that like social interaction time and getting to play a more serious game than I might normally.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know,
Well,
maybe we'll
so
just
one
pick something
question is,
else.
yeah, so that's the question. Do we want to keep playing Gloomhaven or, its sequel, or do we want to like switch up to a different game? Because that's doable too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think that we've shown that this paradigm works. It may not be ideal, but we've made it work, and I think that that's I see a lot of people complaining online because they're trying to do like tabletop simulator, or they're trying to use the tech as the game in a lot of ways, and I think that we've kind of smashed that and figured out ways around it. That said, we
yeah,
still need two copies of whatever game we're going to play.
right. So I guess, I mean, that's an interesting topic too. So why aren't we using Tabletop Simulator? And I feel like, what you're saying is true. Like for me, there's something about actually picking pieces up and moving them around and everything that you can't really recreate in one of these simulations. I mean, even I say that, but I already said earlier that I'm looking forward to the digital version of this game. So like, it's going to be interesting to see how that compares and everything.
Yeah. Well, I feel like because of the way we're doing things, it's more social interaction. If we're even if we put up Zoom on one side and then we were playing on the other side, so like say we have two monitors going or something like that, I feel like we're necessarily going to spend less time talking to each other because we each have our own interface that we're interacting with, even if we're talking to each other over Zoom. Whereas when we're looking at, sometimes not properly synced physical items, we're talking about, oh, where did you put that guy? Oh yeah, okay, I see. There's more of that. There's more communication going on, I think.
Hmm.
Again, we haven't tried it, but there's something about needing to make sure that neither of us have made mistakes on our syncing up that makes it a little more of a social thing than if we were just playing online.
Yeah, yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's true. Um,
But at the
yeah,
same
that's
time,
interesting.
so we wouldn't be able, this game is actually, so Gloomhaven is because it's cooperative and because there's not a lot of like hidden information, um at least not randomized hidden information, it works really well. If we were playing like Burgle Brothers, for instance, that has hidden information, and there's no way we would be able to sync our boards without knowing that hidden information. So this definitely uh, worked well because we picked well. If we
Hmm.
had tried some of the other games out there, we might not have done as well.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, well, maybe we'll just stick with this then. I mean, I guess I could just buy Frosthaven when it comes out. It's still, it's still not out yet, quite yet, right?
Right. They're planning to, they just sent out a thing. I think that the first round of they're still working on the scenario booklet and things like that. I think that the summer is when they're planning for it to come out,
Okay.
but don't quote me on that because I don't remember off the
Okay.
top of my head.
Well, I mean, again, who knows how far we actually are in this stupid campaign? So we'll see. Um,
Yeah, who knows? 3 years later, they're still playing Gloomhaven.
yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if I have that long of a campaign in me if it keeps going for that
I
long.
know. Yeah. We'll probably be on a different pandemic by then.
Yeah, probably. It'll be COVID 2026.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay. I guess we could wrap up. It's been fun.
Mhm.
Um, and we will probably play again in a couple weeks.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or maybe even
Assuming,
next week. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll see.
Thanks for watching, listening. Actually, there's one more thing I want to say is that if anyone actually is interested in playing with us, that's doable, but you may need your own copy of the game as well.
Yeah, we
And
have two slots. We don't have a full group. There's only two of us. So we have two open slots and we're
yeah,
pretty friendly people.
yeah. We actually did this for there's a conference that we go to called NASAGA, North American Simulation and Gaming Association.
Mhm.
Um, and we actually played one of these Gloomhaven sessions during that conference and invited other people to join us too, but no one could because no one had a copy of the game. Um,
Yeah, it didn't work out, but we tried.
yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's it. I'll see you around. Yeah,
Yeah.
good talking
Thanks
to you.
everybody for watching and listening. And
Yes.
join us next time as we try to escort this stupid robot rabbit, robot
Yeah.
lemming
And
again.
feel free to leave comments down below. Oh,
Like,
I'm
comment, and
pointing, but
subscribe.
I'm pointing except that it doesn't matter because I'm just gonna use this voiceover for the video, probably.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe,
Right.
as all of the YouTube videos say.
Yes. Um, and feel free to message us if you have questions or anything.
Mhm.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.